welcome back to another episode of Ruddle Me This. I am your host, the Fresh Prince of Belfast, New Zealand, Taylor Ruddle. First up, I've got a little surprise for you. I have a new microphone. I don't know if it sounds any different to the last episode, but I bought a new microphone for the podcast. We are moving on up. I'm investing in the podcast, so I hope my audio sounds better than it did last week. I've upgraded from a Yeti Blue Pro, I think it was, that I was using for the last several years. But those things are just kind of awkward to hold if you don't have a boom arm. So I thought I'll get a little handheld one. I've got a little Samsung A14, I believe it is. And so far I'm very happy with it. So I hope I'm going to pass the the savings directly onto you, listener. I hope it's a more pleasant listening experience to your ears. In today's episode, I am joined by somebody I have been a big fan of for quite a long time, so it was really delightful for me to finally get him on the podcast. The guest this week is Kozo Kaos, and he is a New Zealand-based street performer, but he does all sorts of touring all over the world at various festivals and just in general street performances. Kozo and I met a couple of years ago when he was touring around New Zealand with a company called the Kids Day Out variety show. And I thought it would be a good idea to try and perform stand-up comedy on this. So I emailed the producers and said, could I do a sort of an audition to see if stand-up would actually work for children? And they were game, and I met them at the Burnside Aurora Centre for their show in Christchurch to have kind of like a little interview. And so I got to see the inner workings of how the tour works and how they set up and just how it all kind of flows. It was a lot of fun. It was a long day, but man, it was a cool experience for me to get to take a part of. And to my absolute surprise, the stand-up actually went really well. So maybe someday you'll see me as a children's entertainer if this whole performing for adults thing doesn't work out. But like I was saying, Kozo, I've been a big fan of Kozo for a while, and I've been wanting to pick his brain about the life of a street performer for so long. There's just so many questions I had about, like, how do you actually, like, survive as a street performer? So it was cool to find out what a day in Kozo's life looks like, what a year in Kozo's life looks like, and just kind of like how he got started, how he sustains himself, and just basically how it all runs. It was a really, really fascinating interview for me. I enjoyed it a lot, and I hope you enjoy listening to it too. So with that, please welcome to the show my guest for this episode, Kozo Kaos. Hello, Kozo. Welcome to the podcast.
Hi, thanks for having me.
No, I've been wanting to do this for a while. I think we were going to try and queue it up at the last Buskers Fest, but we're both busy. Are you doing Buskers this year as well?
I haven't heard that, but hopefully I'll be back for it because it's a fun festival. It's really nice.
Absolutely.
I like Christchurch as well. So.
Oh, excellent. Was that your first time doing it last year?
So I've been a punter for many years, and then it's actually a hard festival to get into.
Yes,
I've applied for many years and never got it. And then, organizers changed a couple of times in the past few years. But like, first official was this year, but I kind of did it I'm trying to figure out what year, not last year, 2021, I think.
Because
I did it because a performer didn't I don't know what happened, but there was a performer that didn't arrive for the first week. So they had time slots open, and I happened to be in town. So they're like, hey, do you want to perform? So I kind of briefly was involved unofficially.
Gotcha. Because they sort of made it easier. I think they kind of, what they really want is international acts. So it's fairly hard for locals to get in. But then when the pandemic happens, they didn't really have a choice. So they
was just locals for a while.
Yeah.
But I think, this year they brought in a few internationals, and I think next year they want to bring in more.
Yeah, that sounds about right, eh? So I think I would have talked about this in the intro, because I was a street performer. Is that what your official title would be?
Yeah, I'm a little bit of everything. I'm a juggler, I'm a magician, circus performer, street performer,
comedian as well.
But yeah, a little bit of comedy, a little bit of stand-up from time to time.
Yeah. So what, for the listeners out there, what I find so fascinating is I've been a fan of Kozo for a long time, and I like to live through him vicariously, watching his travels overseas. And so I am fairly self-servingly wanting to talk to him about a little bit of the nuts and bolts. I'd just love to know about kind of what a day in his life is like, and then also what a year in his life is like as a street performer who's working pretty much constantly. So let's go through a day in your life as a street performer. Let's say one when you're based in New Zealand. You're in Wellington at the moment?
Yeah, I'm based in Wellington. I haven't been home much this year. I've been crazy busy traveling everywhere, which is awesome. But like a typical day, this is also interesting because like a lot of people have asked me about this, and I
Yeah.
actually did a vlog about this on my YouTube.
Yes, go and
And
watch Kozo's YouTube for sure.
yeah, it's the Wellington edition. I'm planning to do one for every like city that I go to regularly as a
Brilliant.
what it's like sort of day in the life vlog. But basically in Wellington, I just do if I don't have any gigs, I just do street shows on the weekends, and I'll just head up either the waterfront or Cuba Street. I'll just get there in the morning, like 11:30, and then there's usually me and maybe a few other people. It really depends on the day. Everyone's schedule is different, so I'll try and do a couple shows that day, depending on the weather as well. And then I'll be home by probably 6 o'clock, unless I decide to go back out in the evening, do more. But it's kind of unlikely in Wellington because it's not as busy as other cities or in other
Gotcha.
countries. So I just try and do shows on a nice day during the day.
So there's this concept that you explained to me a little bit because Kozo and I met for the first time properly at the Kids' Day Out, and I was attempting to sort
Mm,
of pick their brain a little bit. There's this concept of the draw that
yeah.
normal people might not understand. And how are these? The way it works is you basically all put your name into a hat, and then whoever's name gets drawn, they get the first pick of what time slot they want to do. Is that correct?
Yeah. So basically, like most established busking pitch, like we'll say Melbourne South Bank, there will be a draw at 11 a.m. And everyone knows this. If you don't, you just kind of ask for local performers or whatever. So at 11 a.m. we'll meet up, and then yeah, it's either you write your name on a piece of paper, or in Melbourne we have coins with numbers on them. We just put it in the hat. There's 5 people, put 5 coins in that's numbered 1 to 5, and we just take turns drawing a coin. If you get number one, you get the first pick. Second gets the second. Then the
Oh
last
yeah,
person usually gets 2 picks because to make it fair, because you're last, right? And
that's
then we
fair.
go
Yeah.
back up the list. So normally there'll be a schedule, like a time slot for each pitch, like 11 a.m. show, 11:45, 12 p.m., whatever. Um, but yeah, every pitch is different times. Like Edinburgh is 10 a.m., but there's like 100 performers to get through.
Yeah, that's a lot because you chuck your lanyards into the Edinburgh one, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to get there by 10 a.m. sharp. If you're like 20 seconds late, you miss out. But you put your
Wow.
lanyard in, and then it takes like 30 to 45 minutes because there's like 6 different spots, up to 100 performers, and then you get your one, maybe two if you're lucky, shows for the day.
Wow. The I was quite impressed at how structured of a system it was, and this is one thing that's been interesting for me to see as kind of like a guest looking into the circus and that world is that there's uh it's quite organized and it's quite structured and
Mm,
from what I've seen, it's almost like a very close community. One thing that stuck out to me was when we were doing the setup at the Kids' Day Out, is everyone had hoodies and stuff of, I guess, like previous circuses that they'd worked for, and I thought
oh,
that was
yeah,
really
yeah.
cool. Um, so yeah, you do the draw, and then if you were just doing like a regular day in Wellington,
Yeah.
would you be able to do more than one show, or is it just kind of one person, one show?
Well, in Wellington, I would average 3, maybe 4 shows a day because it'll either just be me or one or two other people that'll come,
How
and
long?
we just take turns.
Yeah, how long do these shows that you do tend to take?
Well, my show's like roughly 30 to 40 minutes, and it's the same with other people as well. So, like, yeah, I can, if I'm on pitch around 11:30, I can definitely get 3 shows in before like 5 or 6 o'clock.
Okay. And do you do the same act each time, or do you have like a few different routines that you kind of cycle through when you're doing your street shows?
So the show itself is the same. Like the tricks are the same, the jokes, all that, but like there's lots of room for improv, and I do improvise a lot. It
You
really
do.
depends on like, 'cause I interact with the crowd a lot and my
Mm,
volunteers. So it really depends on the crowd, volunteers I have. So like it can lead to like really great moments. And that will change the length of the show. And it's also a different show each time in a way.
Yes, absolutely. It's a good way to keep it fresh for yourself as well, I imagine.
I do sometimes chuck in a new trick just to like test it out. And I have been lately, I have a new like fire eating bit.
Oh yeah?
And I'm kind of just testing it out as either like a warm-up trick before I start the show, or sometimes I'll do it like near the end of the show as a hey, I have a bonus trick. Do you guys want to see it? But
That's
like
pretty
I'll
cool.
try and see what the crowd is like, and if
Mm.
they're into it, maybe I'll show it off. But
Because I
really,
guess
yeah, it's been fun.
we could tell the audience what your specialty is juggling while you're standing on a like a freestanding ladder. I guess is that the best way to describe it to the audience?
Yeah, freestanding ladder. Best way to describe it is like I'm kind of stilt walking the ladder.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And so that I imagine is your closing trick. Is that right?
Yeah, that's my finale. The final trick. I either juggle fire or knives at the top.
And like when you were building your act, um, is that I guess the question is it's a bit like with you building your set list as a comedian, you have jokes in there that are like from, I have jokes that I've been doing 10 years going, I've been doing it 10 years, 9 years
Mm.
kind of thing. How long did it take you to put together your current act? Was it fully formed when you started doing it, or did you kind of take bits and pieces and refine it and cut cut the bits that weren't working and stuff like that? What was your process like for coming up with your
Yeah,
act?
so most street performers when they start, they'll see someone and get inspired, and their show would look or sound a lot like their show. And my show definitely did. Like it had bits of like different performers in the show because I didn't know who I was or what I was doing. I had my own tricks, but I was like, oh, okay, I heard this joke from this guy. It was funny. I'll use that here. This guy's joke, all that, and then but over time you want to like take those out and then change it. But also in the street performing world, there's a thing called stock lines, and this is something a lot of comedians don't know about, but it's pretty much like a joke that someone made many years ago and then became famous for it. And then someone stole it, and then another one stole it, and then people just kept stealing it, and it just became like a stock joke that everyone kind of generally uses.
I think in stand up we call those street jokes.
Yeah, that's what I heard. Yeah, street
And
jokes.
in the street performer world, is it frowned upon at all to use them, or are they kind of looked at as like public domain jokes, for lack of a better
It
word?
kind of depends. Like, I think using stock lines are okay, but like people, like for me, I use a few stock jokes on my show, but I've changed the delivery or like I've added a tagline to them or like I've slightly tweaked it to try and make it my own. So it's not like a direct steal, if that makes sense.
Absolutely, yeah.
Like if I hear you do a stock joke, like in this sort of setup, the way you deliver it, all that, and I try and do it the same way, it clearly shows that I took it from you,
Right,
right?
yeah.
So like I think it's okay to use stock jokes, but you want to do it in your own way.
Yeah.
Does that
Well,
make
like
sense?
with emceeing, there's only so many ways you can do jokes about like, if you're doing all the admin stuff before a show, you tell the audience the emergency exit is here, and then you've always got to have a joke about like if there's an earthquake, we're screwed, or do you know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
there's so I think, yeah, I think that kind of thing's fine. I've seen so many magicians do the line of giving someone a hat and then saying, "Do you have head lice?" And they go, "No," and they go, "You do now." Like
You do now? Yeah,
I
that
did
one.
something like with COVID where I gave someone the mic or something and said, you don't have COVID, do you?" And they're like, "No." And I was like, "Oh, sorry," like so.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, certain little things like that. As long as you're not hanging your hat on them, and it's not like
Yeah.
your
And like
entire
it
yeah.
really depends on the person as well. Some performers will use stock jokes and then they'll be like, oh no, I didn't steal it off you or whatever. Or like they say their show is original, but it's not. Like it really is like the performer as well. Like I openly admit I have stock jokes in my show. If I have a joke that I stole from someone, I'll be like, yeah, I took it from that guy. But then I
Yeah.
asked him later if I can use it. He's okay with it. So there's all that as well.
Yeah, there's a big thing with originality in stand-up is a lot of stand-ups won't watch stand-ups because they want to be original, but I think
Mm.
that's strange because we can kind of get into music and stuff. You're a big music guy, and I think a lot of your persona
Mm.
and a lot of your character is based on you kind of wear your influences on your sleeve quite a bit. And
Mm.
that's one thing I found strange about stand-up is people like are almost like ashamed to admit their influences. But if you listen to musicians
Oh, okay.
talking, all they talk like because I'm a big fan of the band Ghost, and
Oh, yeah.
Tobias, who like created Ghost, he will like openly say his band Ghost is 50% Uriah Heep and 50% Blue Oyster Cult. And like,
Mm.
yeah, I don't know. I find that
I think
strange how
it's
comedians are so weird about
Yeah,
their
I think
influences.
it's fine to be inspired by other people, but like
Exactly.
unless you're actually copying them,
Yeah. Yeah,
it's like, oh
exactly.
yeah, I like this comedian, but like it's bad if you're using their jokes.
Yeah, you don't
But
want to
like
use
you
their
want to be
jokes.
inspired by their styles, or like if
Exactly.
you like Jimmy Carr, you don't want to steal Jimmy Carr's jokes, but like you want to be influenced or inspired by him or
Yeah,
whatever.
absolutely. Absolutely. So like when you were talking about before, you didn't really know who you are. I think you've got quite a strong persona. Like your branding is really on point.
Hmm.
What kind of things are your biggest influences when it comes to your kind of character?
Man, for me, like it's weird because like obviously I have like a street form or two that inspired me and I'm influenced by. But a lot of my like inspiration comes from like bands.
Mm,
So I've always wanted to be in a band, but like I don't play any instruments, I can't sing. But like when I perform and travel, I feel like I'm a band. So
absolutely.
like I've got my branding with my logos and like my merch and stuff, and I've got like my style going on. And yeah, and I'm also inspired by lots of comedians as well.
Really? What kind of
Yeah.
comics inspire you?
Um, I really love Noel Fielding.
Oh, yep.
But yeah, one half of a Mighty Boosh.
Mm,
I've
yeah,
I've watched Noel stuff since I was a kid, and like I
yeah,
just love the weird, absurd stuff. But
absolutely.
and like his character work is amazing.
It is, isn't it? You're in terms of your musical, you and I don't know a lot of people that listen to Hailstorm, but you're quite a big fan of Hailstorm, aren't
Mm. Oh, I love Hellstorm. Yeah.
you? Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen them twice live now, and I've actually met the band, which is amazing.
That's very cool.
Yeah, but yeah, like I love Hailstorm, but I have not used their music for my shows. I
Of
feel like it
course.
doesn't fit me, or I haven't
Right.
found the right song.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess that's another
Mm.
element to what you do is you can use music to like set the tone quite well, which with stand up we I mean, I've seen people use music before, but um that is quite interesting actually. What are some of your favorite bands to use for your performances? Because I know you had one that was like Cammy's theme from Street Fighter. It was like a
Yeah,
hard rock cover of that, and I thought that was
yeah.
great.
So that's from a YouTuber that I follow, Frederick Habert something. He's like a
Yeah,
German guy, but he does like lots of rock covers of like
yeah, yeah.
anime and gaming music. And when I heard that, I was like, oh God, I got to use this.
It's a
And
great
like
track.
when people get it, it's amazing. They come up and be like, hey, you used the Cammy theme song. I was like, yep.
Because
So it's really good.
that's another aspect to your personality that's maybe not as on it's not as upfront as the rock influences, but you're quite into well, because you are Japanese, aren't you?
Yeah, I am Japanese, born and raised in New Zealand.
And you I think I left a comment on one of your YouTube videos about an Android 16 from Dragon Ball Z figure that you
Yeah,
had in your room.
yeah.
Do you incorporate a lot of that side of things into your act?
Yeah. See, like the thing, like when I was first starting out, I had a lot of like anime references in my show, which I loved. But like anime wasn't huge 10 years ago or whatever. So like
Yeah,
people didn't get it. But these days I can because people like if I do a Dragon Ball Z reference, not everyone will laugh, but I'm getting the people that know Dragon Ball Z, they'll laugh. And
absolutely.
then I will be like, oh cool, you're a Dragon Ball Z fan. And then
Yeah,
I do like Pokemon references and like I've started doing a One Piece joke lately because One Piece is big now.
I love
Everyone
it.
knows the anime and especially the Netflix live
Yes.
action.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like a lot of like laymen know about it now. So like I had a joke, but it wasn't working, so I took it out. But then I brought it back into my show recently because of the Netflix episodes. I was like, okay, people know One Piece, so I chucked the joke back in, and it's getting more of a laugh than it
I
was
love it.
before.
I love it.
Yeah.
I have a joke that people have seen me say this before, but I have a joke about on Halloween dressing up as Piccolo from Dragon Ball Z, but being mistaken for Shrek. And that it can be
Nice.
it can be a 50-50 because like most people, like I'm 31. Are we a similar age?
Yeah, I am the same age
Yeah. So okay, so we
as
would
you.
have grown
Yeah,
up watching pretty much exactly the same things on TV,
yeah,
probably.
yeah,
Um,
yeah.
and that's the interesting thing is when I did the tour with David, his audience was a lot younger, and it's the only time that just referencing Piccolo has gotten a big laugh out of the audience. Normally, it's
Right.
a slight snicker and maybe some people nodding, but
Yeah.
you're right. As people, it's in
But
the
that's also
zeitgeist now.
fun. You want to do jokes, like niche jokes for certain people, but also for yourself as well.
Exactly, exactly. It's
Yeah.
and I can make the joke work where if they don't know the character, I just say he's a green muscular alien with weird ears, so just picture that on me. And then people they
Yeah.
know enough about the joke to get
Yeah.
that like, okay, yes, he would be mistaken for Shrek dressed as
Mm.
that.
Yeah,
Um
yeah.
so that's kind of your influences. Something else that's quite interesting that I noticed about the street performer is I think you might do this in regular shows, but when you were in Edinburgh, you would do these like trio shows where you kind of team up with other performers and come up with like a new name for the act. Like you have one with some guys where you do three ninjas.
Yeah. So the Ninja Show kind of started last year, and we did a little bit in Melbourne this year and Adelaide. But it's basically my good friends Hiroshi, Mako, and Yuya. They're Japanese street performers, but we all travel, so we're always in the same place
Yeah.
around the world. Like we'll always meet in Edinburgh, we'll always meet in Melbourne and Adelaide as well. But it's basically when we do the group show, it means it's gonna be a bad time slot. Basically, there'll be a time
Oh,
slot, and then no one wants to do it, or one of us
interesting.
has it booked, and we go, I don't want to do my solo show. Do you guys want to do a group show? Because
That's really
group shows are
interesting.
fun and it's less effort, right?
Yes,
But
absolutely.
then sometimes they become really good because there's four of us, right?
Yeah.
Trying to do something, and it builds a crowd, and people go, what are these guys doing? There's like four Asian people just like kneeling on the ground. What are they doing?
Yeah.
And it's always fun for us. I
Oh,
really
that's
like it.
brilliant. Because your joy
Yeah,
translates to the audience, doesn't it? And it was,
exactly. Because like we're not thinking about like trying to get like a good hat, or like we're not trying to like gather a big crowd. We're just like, oh, we just want to like muck around, try these tricks, and just have fun.
yeah, I love that. I think it's really cool how you guys can collaborate. Do you have to do a lot of rehearsing, or is it the kind of thing where you put it together on the fly and you just kind of say to each other like, okay, this is this trick I can do, this is this trick, we can sort of like cobble something together from that? Or yeah,
The
how does
first
that
the
work?
first time we did the ninja show, there was no rehearsals at all. We just went, okay, what can we do in the show? We'll start with this, right? You do the handstand warm up. I'll do my juggling routine. We'll do this routine, and then the finale is this, and then we just do it. So like
Yeah.
the first show was messy,
Mm,
obviously,
yeah.
but then we got the rhythm, and then like, cool, we kind of have a show that's kind of formed.
I love it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Is that a reference to those children movies with the kids with the Japanese grandfather who taught them like ninjutsu and
There is a movie called Three Ninjas, right?
yeah, yeah, I
Is it
watched
Three
it
Ninjas?
recently.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
It
yeah.
was it was I saw a meme that was just about like 90s kids have your personality shaped by two or three random movies that your family just happened to have on VHS, and like that was
Yeah.
definitely a massive one for when I was a kid, was watching these Three Ninjas ones. So when I saw the
Yeah.
name was Three Ninjas, I was like, I wonder if that's a reference to those
It's
90s
actually
ones.
not, but I later did realize, which you reminded me, but I don't even know how we came up with a name. Because we
Yeah,
didn't have a name, I
and
think.
it's
It was
four of you, you
something
said, right?
different originally. Yeah. It was four of us. And then when we first did the show, we were doing like a little introduction and we didn't know what our name was. So we made something up on the spot. And then later on, we're like, hey, what's our group name? We're just like, oh, four ninjas,
Yeah.
which has been five ninjas at one point,
Oh
three
yes, the number does
ninjas,
change.
and
Yeah.
then two ninjas was the worst show we've done. Two
So
ninjas did not work.
you need like a critical mass of three ninjas for it to be a kind of a
Yeah, three or
workable
more
thing.
works well. Yeah.
That's also a very ninja-like tactic to have four people, but tell everyone it's three in case you get ambushed or something. You can kind of you've got like a
Yeah.
guy in the wings.
Yeah.
Were you ever a Naruto guy growing up?
Um, I have seen a little bit of the anime when it started, but then at some point I stopped. I
Yeah,
can't remember when. Yeah.
it's
I
funny
think
because
it's the same as, yeah, Bleach. I was watching it and I was really into it and then stopped. you know.
Yeah, I think it's this funny generational skip where a lot of people our age watched Dragon Ball Z, kind of skipped Naruto, but then One Piece brought them back into watching anime again. So for some reason,
Mm.
Naruto is just that strange in between kind of forgotten sibling that people don't tend to I think the last time we were I think maybe it was at that kids' day, you said you were watching Demon Slayer?
Nah, that might have been Zach.
Oh, it could have been, yeah.
Yeah, not me.
Is Zach
Nah.
into anime?
Oh yeah, he's super into it. Like
Oh,
when
I did
Dragon Ball
not.
Super was on, we were
Yeah,
both watching it every week, and then we'll talk about it at like the
man,
Juggle meetup.
I did not expect that. So Zach, the performer, is Zactacular. You can check him out
Spectacular,
on
yeah.
Instagram. I think I believe I follow him. It's great to see him. Is he in Germany
Mm.
still?
No, he's back in New Zealand now.
Oh yeah,
He's back in Auckland. I'm gonna catch up with him next week actually,
awesome.
and yeah, we
Do you
both
think he
watch
would do
One
an
Piece
episode of
every
this?
week. Oh, maybe yeah, he could be potentially
I'll
interested.
I'll
You could
flick him
ask.
in a message because his adventures over in Germany might be quite good to talk about. So
Hmm.
we've kind of gone through your day, and then so you kind of work for about 7 hours or something like that, in the kind of in the from
In a day, sort of.
yeah.
Yeah, I think 11. Yeah, roughly 7 hours,
Yeah.
I guess.
So then, the other thing that I find quite fascinating is all the travel that you do. I know the Edinburgh Festival is kind of like a pillar of your year. You tend to do that every year, and
Yeah.
by the look of it, I think we don't have to go into figures, but it seems like financially, street performers do quite well out of it, whereas typically comedians tend to go into a lot of debt to do the
Yeah, I
fringe. Do you
think.
find that it works out quite well for you like that?
Yeah, I think going as a street performer, in a way, the costs are lower because
Yeah,
I'm only paying for my flights to get there and my accommodation. I don't have a registration fee or a venue fee or any other marketing fees involved.
yeah,
But as for like an indoor show comedian, you have to pay for marketing, you have to pay for your venue,
yeah.
your registration, all that, which can add up real easily.
Do you do any flyering when you're doing street shows in Edinburgh? Because you kind of are the flyer when you're on the street doing your performances, and people kind of know where all the pitches are. Is that right?
Well, we don't. One of the rules for street performing in Edinburgh, you're not allowed to flyer in your show.
Really?
So, like, if you're a street performer that has an indoor show, you're not allowed to flyer your own show.
Ah,
So, yeah,
interesting.
because the street show time slots are for street shows, and the street shows are part of street events in Edinburgh. So that's along the Royal Mile and the Mound. It's like street activation. So it's an event within an event.
Gotcha. Yeah, so you're not allowed
Yeah.
to just take that time and
But
also
yeah,
promote your
I've
other
noticed
thing.
what a lot of people do is when once they're finished, right, and they're collecting their donations, they go, by the way, I have an indoor show. There's a
Hmm.
bunch of flyers just on the ground next to the speaker. They're not handing it out in a
It's
way.
such
It's
a
just
loophole.
sitting there and you just
Yeah.
let people take it. So
Have
there is
you?
a little loophole.
Yeah, we were talking about. I came to you for some advice to do how to do digital tips for a Koha show that we're running, which
Mm.
is the Laugh Cellar. Everyone who listens to the podcast will know about this. Have you noticed a shift in that people not carrying cash anymore for street performers, or do you still get quite a lot of coins and things like that in your hats?
Definitely post pandemic, it has shifted quite a bit because a lot of places have started going cashless
Mm,
and QR because the busking donation system we use is bus.co and it's a great system. And it's basically you have a QR code, and then when people scan it, it loads up a payment page. And because of New Zealand and Australia, they used QR codes during lockdowns and pandemic, right? To
yeah.
either check in into places or whatever. People here are familiar with QR codes now. So
Yeah.
it's helped a lot. Unlike the UK, like London, QR codes don't work. People don't really understand it. So
Really
over there, it's better to use like a card machine. But when I'm over
interesting.
here in the Southern Hemisphere, I just use my QR code. Because people are like, oh, just scan it. Boom, easy.
That was a joke that I did in my COVID joke special, was saying that was one of the few silver linings to the pandemic was that people know how to use a QR code now. Um, so
Yeah.
that's really interesting. So I just see we've got about 10 minutes left. So let's get through some more of your year. So you do the Edinburgh every year. Do you have any other pillars throughout your year that you try to? Because I know you go to, is it Melbourne or Sydney for like a
Yeah,
stretch?
Melbourne. I just really like Melbourne. I used to live there, but like I love performing in Melbourne and I love the city itself. So I try and visit whenever I can. And I'm
Hmm.
actually going back for like December to start my summer tour, which is
Hmm.
gonna be really cool. But
What is your summer
uh,
tour? Whereabouts are you kind of heading for that?
it's pretty chill this year, like the Southern Hemisphere summer. This year is Melbourne for December, January, and then like end of January, if I end up doing one of the Buskers Fest in New Zealand, I'll come and do that. And then February, March is Adelaide Fringe.
And is that February and March? Is that like a month long festival there?
Yeah, Adelaide Fringe is 5 weeks long. It's pretty
Wow, that's
long.
huge. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
longer than the Ed Fringe.
Yeah, it is.
Um,
Yeah.
so with the Adelaide Fringe, that's the same kind of thing where you're just doing street shows every day. And you
Yeah.
have the draw and
So
everything like that. Yeah.
yeah. So we have the draw. There's two draws. One in the morning for like Rundle Mall, where the normal daytime shows happen, and then from Friday to Sunday, they close the roads near like where the
Yeah.
festival hub is, like where the garden and like Gluttony is. They close the intersections and all the streets, so they have like restaurants and food stalls and markets set up, and two busking pitches. So
That's right.
the draw happens at 4:30
Yes.
for the evening shows.
I think I've seen you're kind of in like a four-way intersection doing your spots, right? I feel like I've seen videos of you
Yeah,
doing that.
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah.
really cool.
There's
That's really cool.
two spots off the intersection. One's definitely better than the other.
Mm. So when you go to stay in, like, if you're just doing like a month in Melbourne, the accommodation probably really hits you hard. Like, do you have like I don't know, like how do you how do you swing that? Like, do you have like someone that you know that you can just like rent a room from a month, or do you just
Yeah,
get
so in
hostel?
Melbourne, I have like two friends that I can go to and be like, hey, can I stay with you? Like they have a spare room. But if that doesn't work, I'll just find like an Airbnb or whatever. And like if I have other performer friends in town as well, be like, hey, do you want to split costs, find a place which works out really well and cheaper?
Yeah, because that's the thing that we noticed with running our tour was that like if you want to get a hostel, that's okay for like it's about $100 or something like that. But
Mm,
it's kind of you get what you pay for. The conditions are not ideal.
yeah,
But then you
yeah.
book like a nice motel and you'll actually have parking and you have your own bathroom and stuff like that. But then that's two or three times as expensive to book out. So
Yeah, like I
um,
found some nice hostels in certain places where I go, okay, I can stay there for a week or two if I need to. So like
yeah,
if I
yeah,
can't stay at a friend's place or if I don't want to pay for an Airbnb or it's too expensive, I'll be like, okay, cool. I've stayed at this hostel. It's good. It's cheap. I'll just go there.
yeah, that makes sense. Because there's a
Mm.
big the whole I imagine with the internet and stuff now, it's a one big community for street performers. Like if you were going to, I know you did some shows in Japan. I followed you did some vlogs on your YouTube channel, I think. Um,
Yeah.
when you were doing that, did you reach out to any local community that you could find, or did you just sort of have to turn up and then kind of
Yeah, like
yeah,
I'll just reach out to my like juggler friends or street performer friends and be like, hey, I'm coming to town. Like, where's the pitch? What's the rules? What do I need to do to do the show? All that.
yeah,
Just ask people. Yeah.
that's really cool. Are there any countries you haven't visited that you really want to?
Yeah, well, I really wanted to go to Germany this year because
Hmm.
like when my friend Zach was
Yeah,
in Berlin, I wanted to go visit and then, work Berlin and just hang out. It didn't quite work out. I kind of ran out of time because like after
yeah.
Edinburgh, I pretty much went to London for a week and then I went, maybe I'll come back to New Zealand. And then I really wanted to do Canada as well. It would be awesome.
Yeah, for sure. When you're doing a big city like London, is that because I think the way street performing works is certain places need to be approved for you to do a street show there, or is it kind of so long as it works, you can do a street show there? I guess it
Yeah,
varies on
so
yeah.
yeah, most places you'll need to get a license through the council. Sometimes it's easy. Sometimes if you're doing like a dangerous act with fire and knives or whatever, you have to do an audition. So for the Melbourne license, I auditioned and I have the dangerous props permit. So I'm all approved. And
How long does that last for?
London, my one lasts for 5 years.
That's all right.
Well, the dangerous permit lasts for 5 years, but the actual busking license is per year.
Oh, okay. So you have
So you
to
have to
apply
renew
for
it
it.
each year. But
Yeah.
it's easy. You just do it online. But like
Yeah.
places like London, it's all like it's run by the performers there. So like you need to know people and
Yeah.
be recommended. So like if you're rocking up, if you have people there that know you, they'll be like, oh cool, yeah, you can come and work. But if they have no idea who they are, they'll be like, okay, you maybe do a show just to like kind of prove you can do a show or and you're not crazy or whatever.
Yeah. That's it's always, I imagine, a bit of trepidation when someone new turns up and they're like, I'm gonna juggle fire and all that sort of thing. You never know what's
Yeah,
gonna happen there.
yeah,
Um
yeah.
Oh, that's brilliant. So then I guess we'll just wrap it up. We've got about 4 minutes left. I don't know exactly when this is going to come out, but you said you're going to be in uh, Adelaide in December and January. Is that right?
That's Melbourne. So I'll be in
Oh,
Melbourne
Melbourne,
for
sorry.
December, January, and then Adelaide Fringe for February and March.
Awesome. And then your YouTube channel is just Kozo Chaos, I think.
Yeah,
You
it's
can
just
type
Kozo
in
Chaos. Yeah, I'm on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram.
all of those things. You've also got
Yeah.
your Juggle Skull t-shirts, and I think you're selling hoodies now, right?
Yeah, I did a limited run of hoodies. Maybe I'll do another order soon. I'm not too sure, but hoodies they cost more to make
They're
and they're quite
so
heavy to
expensive.
travel
Yeah.
with. So,
Yeah.
but I have t-shirts, I have stickers, and I've got patches on the way soon. So
Like as for like a battle jacket kind of thing.
yeah, like
Awesome.
a classic like iron-on patch. So
Brilliant. One of my favorite
that'll
things to
be
do is whenever I find one of your skull um, stickers around, I usually send a photo of it to you. Um,
yeah, it's cool. There's
yeah,
a couple around Christchurch
yeah. There's
and
I've
Littleton.
yes, yeah, yeah. I've seen a few of them there. Okay, well,
Mm.
that's been really interesting. I appreciate you giving up your time. It was
No,
as
all
you're a
good.
busy guy. It was a really good interview for me. Do you have any closing words or anything else you want to get out there before we sign off?
Well, I don't know. If you want to find out more about me, just follow me on my socials at Kozo Kaos.
Definitely do that. All right, thank you very much.
Awesome. Thank you.
And we are back. Welcome back, guys. Hope you enjoyed that interview with Kozo as much as I enjoyed having it. It was a fantastic experience for me to finally get to pick his brain about all those aspects of being a street performer that I've been wanting to ask him for a long, long time. I'll chuck all of Kozo's links into the description below and the show notes, whatever you want to call them. So definitely go and check him out. I think he's trying to focus on his YouTube page right now, so go and check out his YouTube page, Kozo Chaos on YouTube. He posts pretty much daily clips, so if you're into juggling and street performing and the sort of mayhem that goes on when you're putting on a street show, definitely check that out. I've subscribed to Kozo. As for me, as always, at Taylor Ruddle Comedy on all the social media platforms. If you want to support the show and help me reach more listeners, give me a little cheeky review on the Apple Store or the Spotify Store. Either of those helps me out a great deal, as I think the more reviews you get, the more it gets put into people's feeds, and so that helps me get more listeners. I'll get into this a little bit more in the State of the Ramble 2023 review, but the podcast, I was kind of looking at the numbers before, seeing what kind of growth we have achieved in the almost year that I've been running it. And it was really, really encouraging growth. I think as of like 10 months in, I had grown the numbers by about 300% on the month. So that's really encouraging. I'm hoping that it continues into 2024. And I'd love it if the numbers could grow another 300% in 2024, because that would basically push me right into the area that I need to get into to start monetizing my podcast, which would be amazing for me. That'd be a dream come true. So if you love the podcast and you'd like to help me make it into my main thing that I do to make money throughout the week, tell a friend about it, recommend a friend episodes, leave a review, just do anything you can to help me spread it around, share my posts on social media, all that kind of thing there that just helps it push it in front of new people. What else have I got coming up? So as always, the quiz on a Tuesday night at Bridie's Bar and Bistro in Christchurch, the quiz on Wednesday night at Moi Moi, Thursday night, Laugh Cellar. We've had a slight update to Laugh Cellar since the last time. From the 7th of December, which is this week, we are actually going to be charging $10 entry to get into that. It was not a decision I wanted to make, but it was unfortunate that I was just hemorrhaging money trying to make that show happen, paying for the advertising. I spent about 3 or 4 hours a week doing the promo, doing the booking, and then on top of that, actually putting on the show. And it was just taking up too much of my week and then turning over nothing in terms of money. So we figured we'll just make it a ticketed entry. The Koha entry was awesome to be able to offer a gig to people that maybe weren't swimming in disposable income, but it just wasn't really paying off to the extent that we thought it would. We were hoping the people that could afford to pay more would pay more, and that would kind of balance out for the people that couldn't pay, but it really just wasn't. It wasn't working, so we're going to make it a flat $10 to everybody who enters, and that will basically guarantee the future of that gig. It'll be a lot more sustainable going forward, and I'll be able to hopefully get some bigger names when they're visiting Christchurch to pop in and do a spot at the Laugh Cellar. So while I'm sad to say we can't offer it as a Koha entry anymore, I think it's going to be much better for the future of the gig, charging $10 entry. So one last little announcement for this week, and then I'll let you get back to your week, is I am going to be reviving an old show of mine, I suppose, if you will, that I used to do back in 2018, and it's going to be dropping this Wednesday on the normal podcast. It's basically just going to be a bonus episode of the podcast, and it is essentially just a revival of a brand that I used to use back in 2018 when I first got back to New Zealand from Japan, and I used to do some interviews with the local comedians. I won't say too much more about it now. I just wanted to let you know that there's going to be a bonus episode dropping this week, so look out for that in your podcast players, and I hope you enjoy it when it comes out. I'm really excited to record the first episode of it probably straight after this, so keep your eyes peeled, and I really hope you enjoy it. As always, thank you so much for listening to this episode. I hope you got something out of it. I hope, just hope you enjoyed it. Hope it enriched your week in some way, and thank you so much for listening to the podcast as always. I'll catch up with you in a couple of days for the new bonus episode, and then Ruddle Me This will be back next Monday for another delightful interview. Catch you on the flip side. Ruddler out.